Well, I listened to what was said. Others have listened to what was said by both Guy Joseph, Spider Montoute, and of course the Prime Minister with regard to Shawn Edward. I don't know. Maybe the best person to ask is Shawn Edward. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure
Well,
being here.
you've heard, as a former Minister of Youth Development and Sports, you heard the charges against you. So can you give us a little bit of background and what it is that they're trying to tag you with?
Chris, first of all, I think it is just a diversion tactic on the part of the administration of Hon Shawn.
Why?
As you know, there are a lot of issues that confront a government that has probably recorded the most missteps in such a short period of time in the history of our country. So the government is under pressure from civil society organizations. They're under the pressure from the opposition. And so I think now is an opportune time for them to begin to attack people. What was said by the Prime Minister, what was said by Spider Montoute, Edmond Estefan and Guy Joseph, for me, was a personal attack on me, as opposed to attacking the work that we did in the Ministry of Youth Development and Sport, and by extension, the St. Lucia National Lotteries Authority. The National Lotteries Authority Act gives the minister the right, the power and the authority to direct how monies belonging to the lottery is supposed to be spent. You may not agree with the projects. You may not agree in terms of which projects should have been priority for us. But one thing we ensured, and it was not by coincidence, that the person who chaired the board of the National Lotteries Authority under my ministerial watch happened to be a lawyer. So we were always consistent with the provisions of the National Lotteries Authority Act. So that when Edmond Estefan stood in the Parliament trying to get St. Lucia to believe that I had an account in my name, he knew that he was misleading the Parliament, and by extension, he was misleading all of St. Lucia and persons even beyond the shores of St. Lucia who would be listening to him at the time.
But repetition of speculation or repetition of lies becomes truth nowadays.
Well, sadly, this is the case. But like I said before, my conscience is clear. I did not transgress the National Lotteries Authority Act. What I think happened is that we used the money very effectively to create an environment in St. Lucia where sportsmen and women and young people felt encouraged in the pursuit of their dreams, be it in the sports realm or even the young persons who were not of a sports orientation.
So what was the point of setting up anything? I thought it was, in fact, let me let you tell.
Yes, with respect to the minister's account, I need to say that when I came in as Minister for Youth Development and Sports, the concept of a minister's account existed long before I came into the Ministry of Sports. But I would never go into the Parliament or on any talk show or on a platform and insinuate that the persons who would have served before me had an account set up specifically for their use and for their benefit. You see, you must understand that when we came into government, we were operating under very, very constrained conditions financially. And the amount that was allocated to the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports could not have seriously funded any program of note. And this was the case for all the agencies of government. That is why we went to the people and we told them, look, Lucia is under serious pressure in terms of the resources that are available, and there were going to be massive budget cuts. Luckily for the youth and sports fraternity, we had a second option. So that when the Ministry of Finance could not have made monies available, we used to go to the National Lotteries Authority, and that is pretty much consistent with the National Lotteries Authority Act. And I don't want to say everything on this show. I have to leave some for Parliament, and I'll be making quite a few documents of the House when I go into the Parliament. But it was nothing out of the way. There was nothing untoward. So the concept of the minister's account was one of the accounts set up by the National Lotteries Authority. It never carried my name. It never carried my signature. It was just a very loose. I said the account that everybody has been talking about, the minister's account. You cannot go to any commercial bank in St. Lucia. And to the best of my recollection, National Lotteries Authority money is being banked at Bank of St. Lucia and Scotia Bank. And you can never find a single account in any of those financial institutions bearing the name Shawn Edward or even my predecessors who would have been minister. Okay? So when the impression was created that the account was for me to use as I wanted, I think there are some persons who had a hidden agenda. I think I was made a target. And it is okay for people to differ with me on matters of policy. But if you're going to come for my character and my reputation, which are the only things I came into politics with, I will stand my ground and I will defend to the best of my ability.
So now
let me just clarify one other thing about the minister's account. The name minister's account that is just being used for ease of reference and to facilitate the operations of the National Lotteries Authority. That is all. So that you have accounts. When the board of the National Lotteries Authority meets, the minister does not sit at the meetings, you know. They get proposals from youth and sports organizations, and the stipulation is that you must submit to the board 3 months prior to your activity. Now, when a parliamentary representative, for instance, Gail Rigobert, comes to me with a proposal for the Gail Rigobert netball competition, she wants assistance. I go through the proposal and I realize that, look, netball is a sport that we have to encourage in the Mico constituency. I will not say to the honorable member, take your proposal to the board and allow the board to sit on the proposal 3 months prior. I will approve it, and I have the authority under the Act to approve it, and then I will speak with the chairman and I will ask that they try and expedite this particular disbursement.
And as a project, that, for example, was one of those projects.
That was one of the things that we spent money on.
My issue...
And I need to say also, Chris, that it's not a case where I hold a gun to the head of the chairman of the National Lotteries Authority, who happens to be a lawyer, and force him to sign a check, you know. I never signed a contract for any of the projects that were undertaken. The contracts and the checks and the documentation of National Lotteries Authority were signed by the members of the board, not me. So when the Prime Minister gave the impression that I was integrally involved in operation and I'm supposed to be a policy maker, of course it was policy that I was pushing. I did not go to the bank to carry out transactions. I did not sign checks. I did not sign contracts.
Could you have signed checks?
I could not have signed checks. I was not a signatory to any of the accounts. So how could I have signed checks? But I will insist that in Marigot, we are going to construct a changing room for the young people of Fromager, the young people of Jacmel, Marigot, and surrounding communities. Now, you may question the amount, as they've done on social media, and ask me, how can a changing room in Marigot cost $400,000? Now, Chris, I will tell you, I am not a QS. I'm not
quantity surveyor.
I'm not a quantity surveyor. I am not an engineer. But when the documents came before us, as a matter of policy, I can say as minister where I want a change room to be built. When the documentation came by way of a bill of quantities, a contract document was prepared. It is given to the chairman of the National Lotteries Authority, who must peruse the contract and everything in the contract before he affixes his signature to that contract. I am not the one who's going to sign the contract and say, you must sign that. The man is a lawyer. And he has to satisfy himself that he is comfortable with the conditions, and then he would proceed to sign.
So then there are two things that have happened. One, they've come after you, and then they've also tried to relate it to the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, Dr. Anthony, and saying that basically he is allowing you to do whatever you wanted to do or whatever. Just, I mean, touch on that for me.
Yes, well, it's obvious that the United Workers' Party, they can't seem to leave Dr. Anthony alone. They've tried everything possible to try and malign Dr. Anthony. So the Prime Minister...
But it works. Once they just go Kenny, 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 Kenny.
Well, yes, it's okay that they can go Kenny, Kenny, Kenny. They can attack me, they can attack Kenny, they can attack Philip J. Pierre. Now I notice they've turned their guns on the church, and the government seems to be in a mood where they're just attacking people. I will tell you one thing. I have absolutely no regret directing the expenditure of the National Lotteries Authority to benefit youth development and sports in this country. And parliamentary representatives from both sides of the House can attest to that. I respect parliamentary representatives. And all of the parliamentary representatives on the other side will tell you that not for once did they call my phone seeking assistance for young persons in their constituencies from the National Lotteries Authority. Did I not respond to their call and give them favorable responses? But today, and I must admit, Chris, I've heard that politics can be very nasty. I did not see that one coming. I did not see that coming. But to try and make it seem as if I am a crook or I have mismanaged funds belonging to the National Lotteries Authority, as I said, people are free to disagree with me on matters of policy. You might criticize some of the programs we executed, but you're not going to come for my character and expect me to stay there and take it. I am preparing a defense, so to speak, which I'm hoping will play out in a very open way in the Parliament when next we convene.
All right, folks, this is Politically Incorrect. When we get back, we're going to basically dive into the budget. This is Politically Incorrect. Stay with us.
Lucas-Aid. Lucas-Aid. It's DLC, everybody. Lucas-Aid energy, get ready. Hey, nobody shutting down this. Lucas-Aid in the van. The whole crew up and ready. Lucas-Aid in the hand. The LZ. Lucas-Aid energy.
Introducing Ring, the world's most advanced doorbell. The Ring Video Doorbell brings convenience, monitoring, and security to your most valuable asset, your home. Ring streams HD video and audio seamlessly over wireless internet to smartphones and tablets. The doorbell's 180-degree HD camera lets you monitor more than just your doorstep, during the day or at night. It's easy to install the Ring Video Doorbell with the included mounting hardware. With dual power options, you can power Ring with a built-in rechargeable battery, good for over 12 months of regular use. Or hardwire Ring to your existing doorbell.
Ring lets you see and speak with whoever's at your home from anywhere. And with dual power options, you can install Ring in just minutes.
With convenience, 24/7 home monitoring, and the peace of mind of added security, Ring families are always home. Order your Ring Video Doorbell today.
Looking for a professional building maintenance services company? Call Lewis Industries Limited.
We are the experts on flooring solutions, restoring all types of natural stone floors, including stripping, sealing, buffing, scrubbing, and polishing of all types of resilient floors. We also clean and shampoo all types of carpets and rugs and offer non-skidding products for your slippery tiles. With over 26 years experience, Lewis Industries is the industry leader. We offer washroom supplies and environmentally friendly cleaning and restoration for residential, commercial, and industrial properties. We also distribute a wide range of janitorial equipment and washroom accessories. Ask about our specialty services, including pressure washing, mold and mildew cleaning, and more. Professional, reliable, affordable. Lewis Industries Limited, the name you can trust.
Welcome back to Politically Incorrect with me, Imran Khan. And yes, we have a lot of runs to score today. We have a lot to get to. Next week, we're going to have the budget resume, and it's going to be the part where the skeletal structure is going to be fleshed out, and the bones and the muscles and the tissues are going to be put on when government now announces its policy. I have heard that there may even be somebody else reading, but I expect the Prime Minister to read the policy. He seems to be getting better at public delivery, so let's see how it goes. But the point is, even from the onset, people like the leader of the opposition, Philip J. Pierre, could see that there were certain things that the numbers just couldn't hide.
The objectives in the 2016-2017 estimates and the objectives in the 2017 estimates identical. But they told the people of St. Lucia that we'd made such a mess. Things were so bad. The Minister of Finance didn't know what he was doing. So they had no budget. And wait till the budget comes. We can't do anything. The budget, we inherited a budget. We can't spend any money. That's what they told the people of St. Lucia. That's what they told the people of St. Lucia. But the truth, Madam Speaker, and they will spin it. They will spin the truth. They will say, they will continue their vindictiveness. They will continue the targeting of people. They'll continue. But the truth of the economic reality that they inherited from this government will come to light. I want to quote, Madam Speaker, from the fiscal and structural reforms of St. Lucia towards a comprehensive agenda. I don't need to make it a document house because this has been a document of the House, Madam Speaker. And it reads, in the executive summary, notwithstanding the improvement in fiscal performance in the past 4 years, notwithstanding the improvement in fiscal performance in the past 4 years. That is the mess they inherited. That is what they told the people of St. Lucia. That's the mess. This government has done a complete mess with the economy. The economy is in chaos. They have to save it. They have to have five to stay alive. But, Madam Speaker, the reality is, and I turn to the summary, because, Madam Speaker, every word I say today, I will back it with facts, and I will back it with using sometimes their own documents. I turn to the summary of estimates for 2017-2018, and the Minister of Finance, he very skillfully gave the ratios for 2016-2017, but he refused to tell the country what will happen with the budget of dreams, to the estimates of dreams that he has put forward to his Honorable House. But I will tell you, the estimates, these figures that are included in these estimates of revenue expenditure will lead this country into economic chaos, and most likely, the country will have to get a structural adjustment program. In the year 2009 to 2010, public debt increased by $207 million. 2010 to 2011, $236 million. 2012 to 2013, $124 million began to decrease. 2014 to 2013, $130 million. 2014 and 2015, $125 million, and 2015-2016, $75 million. That is the debt profile. You agree that it may be difficult to raise money on the bond market, but when you go and tell people, St. Lucia, that this government has overtaxed debt, you understand? When you tell people that, Madam Speaker, that is what the truth, Madam Speaker. So right now, because the truth, Madam Speaker, the truth, so that has become the reality, Madam Speaker, that all the time you are fooling the people of St. Lucia. All the time you are misleading the people of St. Lucia, Madam Speaker. But right now, the facts, the figures, and in their rebuttal, Madam Speaker, I want them not to deal with flashing mirrors, deal with facts, figures, not what you think. What is the reality, Madam Speaker? So, Madam Speaker, the government will increase this fiscal year. External borrowings will increase by $56 million. Borrowing by the way of treasury bills will increase by $111 million. And, Madam Speaker, they are increasing that debt while the main indicators of the economy, the primary surplus, the primary deficit, the overall deficit is increasing, Madam Speaker. The last set of people who did that was Greece. The last people that was Greece, Madam Speaker. And you know where Greece arrived, Madam Speaker.
I'll tell you, for those who have whatever they want to say about Philip Pierre, like he says, when it comes to economics, accounts, figures, things that are supposed to be irrefutable, he's on point. No flash, no spin, just the figures. But now, as we have a former Minister of Sports, can you give me what you see, what you've gleaned just from the estimates and from what was said? Because funnily enough, I noticed that it almost seemed like more of a policy debate than figures. I mean, the Minister for Commerce, what's his name, Bradley Felix, Minister in the Ministry of Commerce, seemed to just read out whatever talking points his PS and them gave him, which didn't seem to deal with the actual issues or deal with the estimates. What were your thoughts on the budget? How do you characterize it?
Chris, let me say, first of all, that the estimates usually give you an insight into the policies to follow. But there's no way you can roll out policy if you don't have money. When you look at the budget of $1.5 billion, the government is expected to raise close to $220 million in the form of loans/bonds. Now, we all know the financial environment in which governments of the Caribbean are operating. And it is going to be a very burdensome exercise for the government to raise that projected amount. I do not expect for them to get close to the amount that has been documented in the estimates. So, as I would have said in my own presentation, that there will be a lot of violated expectations. Some of the line items you see in the various departments, this will not happen because quite a few of them are expected to be funded by bonds. And I do not know that there's going to be some overnight dramatic performance in terms of the central government being able to sell bonds on the market. St. Lucia and most of the other Caribbean islands have struggled quite a bit in terms of being able to sell bonds to raise the revenue that is needed to fund capital projects. So where that is concerned, I don't expect much to happen.
But the Prime Minister said, this Prime Minister said in his rebuttal that he's raising money in bonds because people have more confidence in his government.
Well, the Prime Minister is known to have said a lot of things, Chris. And as I said, the Prime Minister alone cannot change the macroeconomic environment of this country and by extension, the Caribbean space within which we operate. So even if the Prime Minister comes and he confidently states that, look, he'll be able to raise it, and he's projecting that he'll be able to raise it is as a result of people having confidence in his administration, that it is one thing to say that. But I know that the reality that exists, I sat in cabinet for 4.5 years. I know of the difficulties that countries face in terms of being able to raise bonds. And you don't just take a prime minister in isolation, that when you elect an individual or you make him prime minister, that overnight things change. The situation, I made that point also in the parliament, has been very acute for quite a few Caribbean jurisdictions. Trinidad and Tobago has oil. Trinidad has natural gas. And today, the government of Trinidad and Tobago is reeling. If you speak to Chris Sinclair, the Minister of Finance in Barbados, he will tell you, and those other persons in the Parliament of Barbados, and people who have served the Barbados in very high positions, be it in the private sector or in government, will tell you that Barbados is going through one of its worst periods in terms of economic performance. So when the Prime Minister comes and he flashes on the screen $220 million in the form of loans and bonds.
Can I show that on screen, please?
That for persons who probably are not understanding of the budgetary process, it sounds impressive, but the reality, I'm sure, is going to be far different.
I want to leave this on screen because here's the funny thing. I noted Dr. Anthony as a former Prime Minister speaking about the debt to GDP. And that basically, for all what was said about the government of which you are a part, essentially you left one of the best debt to GDP ratios in the Caribbean.
Yes, Chris, and that did not happen by accident, you know. We took measures that ordinarily the IMF and these other international agencies would literally push down your throat. But we mustered the courage to make the tough decisions. We were the ones who said, look, we have to cut back on capital expenditure. We were the ones who said we have to reduce the subsidies. And it wasn't a case where we were allowing just one segment of the St. Lucian population to carry the burden, you know. People were being asked to make sacrifices that were consistent with where they were in terms of the social ladder. So it was something spread across the board. And we said to the people that the situation is one that is pretty daunting and pretty challenging, and that as a country, we all had sacrifices to make. We did what we had to as a government. We went out there, we told people the truth. We engaged civil society organizations. We spoke to the students. We spoke to the church. But at the end of the day, somebody on the other side of the political divide was preaching something totally different. They were preaching that upon winning the election, they would be able to cause milk and honey to flow in the streets of Castries and in all the pocket communities of St. Lucia. But as soon as they got in, it was a different reality that confronted them. And I believe that they knew what they were getting into. So today they're on the back foot. Today they're not able to deliver on programs. We are about to reach that point where the government ought to be celebrating 1 year in office. And you cannot point to a single program that this government has rolled out to cause employment or to cause any kind of activity that will stimulate economic growth. The only thing that they've been able to hold on or try to hold on is an agreement which they found was already on the table, which we refused to sign because we believed that there were certain aspects of that agreement that were inimical not just to Viewport and environs, but the entire country. So that is DSH. And then you talk about the patrimony of a country. Chris, you should never, ever put a dollar value on the patrimony of your country. And to make it worse, the Prime Minister went and he equated the patrimony of the country to the credit rating.
Well,
and if you're going to think that way, it tells you that this is a government that does not care about the plight of ordinary people. This is a government that just looks at the bottom line. And you can look at the bottom line and your profit margins for a private sector entity. When you are dealing with a country, there are going to be times when you have to spend money on which you will not get a direct return. Social programs. There are people who cannot fend for themselves, and you have a responsibility, a moral responsibility as a government, as a prime minister, to ensure that in your programming and in your allocation of resources, these people are catered for.
So then let me ask a question. You all managed to reduce the debt to GDP to under 2%, right?
Yeah.
And in doing that, you managed to keep many social programs. First government under Kenny Anthony to have a disbursement for the disabled, for the disabled, sorry, new word there. You had one for the elderly, right? You had the distress fund. You all had nice
Step. Yes.
You had a number of social programs that were being run. You managed to keep after-school programs in at least 15 communities around the country. How do you manage to do that? And at the same time, because apparently that's not going to happen. The laptops and all of these things you managed to keep doing while you were cutting back.
Chris, there's one word that would encapsulate all of this: leadership. Leadership. And leadership is what differentiates Caribbean jurisdictions. And even if you want to go global, leadership is what sets countries apart from each other. The challenges are there for all the Caribbean countries. Grenada had their fair share of problems. You may not agree with everything that has been done in Grenada, but the Grenada Prime Minister at the moment is somebody who has had a lot of experience in the corridors of governance. And so he is now rolling out programs, of course with the help of the IMF and other international agencies, that it might be slow progress, but they're beginning to make strides in the right direction. This Prime Minister has zero experience, and I know every Prime Minister started with zero experience, but sometimes you have to question who is advising the Prime Minister. Well, and Chris, I need to make the point that the fact that we were able to do so much with very little is as a direct result of the quality of the leadership we had in Kenny Anthony and Philip JP as his deputy. And it is as a result of that we were able to keep step, because we understand that they're single parents, they're people who have no skills and who have to be catered for. We understood that, look, there was an unemployment situation that needed to be tackled, and that NICE would not have been sustainable over a 10-year period. But in the short term, and every government does that, you must program in such a way that you have short-term objectives, you have medium-term objectives, and there are things you're going to achieve in the long run. And it is the foreign direct investment that will cause you to reap benefits down the road. So that when we sat down with the owners of the Royal Ton, and we gave them the concessions, and we created that environment for them to invest and expand what was at the time known as smugglers. It was knowing that down the road we would have had hundreds of people employed there. But you don't wait 5 years until the hotel is constructed to begin to look at the unemployment. You must have stopgap measures along the way. And that is what programs like the NICE program, step on these things were intended to address. But the government has come in and they've cut. I need to say one thing with respect to that, and it's not just from an employment standpoint. You have the playing field maintenance program, and something I intend to address in the budget debate. When we came in, there were playing fields in St. Lucia where the grass and the shrubbery was probably much higher than all the cameras we have in the studio. And I have pictures to substantiate what I am saying. We conceived of a program known as the playing field maintenance program. We were able to restore every single playing field in St. Lucia to a pristine condition where young persons can go in on an afternoon, and even the elderly, to recreate and to sweat.
And also the lighting.
And we have a serious problem in terms of diabetes and other chronic non-communicable diseases. And we don't have to wait until people have been affected to begin to spend millions of dollars to procure medication, whether you're doing it as a collective at the level of the ECS or you're doing it individually. So from very early, we wanted to encourage physical literacy. Do you know that as we speak, that particular program has been shelved, and 2 of the playing fields in my constituency, where we've spent quite a bit of money to restore, if you go there now, as we speak, you will find goats and sheep grazing right on the periphery.
Well, maybe they have a goat and sheep program.
So what they've basically done, or what they've been doing, is to just cut the playing square, and the area outside of the playing square is left to.
Well, let me defend the government. When they announce the policy, they may well come with a goat and sheep program. And we've already heard the problems of cutting the grass behind the grass and in front of the grass. So all of these could be in the policy debate. My point to you then now is this, though. I look at the politics of this, and I notice, because I listen to all of the different shows, that basically everything is political. First of all, I don't see how the will of the people was expressed. And like I said, It's not about the people. Democracy is not about making the right decision. It's about the right to make a decision. The majority convincingly voted for this government, this prime minister. And the whole thing is, we're not giving him a chance. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. Now, I agree that he deserves a chance, right? My only issue is that literally, I don't think any of us thought that he'd screw things up this quickly, even if this bad.
Well, as I said, it is really unprecedented, the number of missteps that have been registered and documented in such a short space of time. And I cannot recall, and there are persons I've had conversations with as recent as yesterday, who've monitored and who've been part of the politics of our country. To me that I cannot recall a government making so many mistakes and blunders in such a short period of time after elections. So last night, Chris, we were in Grand Ravine in my constituency, a national public meeting. You should have seen the turnout. And we're talking about 10 months after elections. People are angry, people are frustrated, and people are demanding more from this government. And as a result of all the issues that we've raised with this government, as a result of all the issues other agencies and other groups in the country are raising with the government, the St. Lucia Labour Party has decided that on the 17th of May, there will be a protest march. And the objective of the protest march is not to go and throw down any government in the streets of Castries. This is not a protest march that is meant to stir up any kind of violence.
Like they say, trigger an election? Or
No, that is not what it is. All we want is for the government to take cognizance of the fact that there are dissenting voices out there. There are people with a constitutional and God-given right to say that we are not in agreement with some of the programs that you are implementing. We do not agree with some of the projects that you want to roll out. And if the government happens to be a smart government, Chris, they have time. They have time to listen to what we have to say as an opposition. They have time to listen to the civil society organizations and go back to the drawing board and fashion a new approach where the people of St. Lucia will be willing to work in tandem with them.
But
the government got a very overwhelming mandate in the elections, you know. And as you said, this is something that we have to respect. But in a democracy, even if you have a majority, the minority have a right, they should have a voice, and you cannot bypass what people are saying because you are in the majority.
So what about the silent majority now who are saying that basically we haven't given them a chance, and that a lot of these policies are just the truth, that these are the things that nobody's had the balls to make those changes. So, for example, the Prime Minister speaks about the Labour Party directly and about the approach of a mendicant mentality where basically, you know, like I guess it referred to the distress fund, but in terms of social programs and so on, that, like I said, to me, I think it's a clear statement, and I understand now who he is. It took me a long time. That basically, for example, he equates poverty with begging, and that the approach that all poor people are beggars. So then basically as a rich kid, right, then how do you look at the citizens of the country? And my point to you is this, that there are people who want to give him a chance to make these changes, right? For example, the 2.5% on VAT was a campaign promise. Now we have the IMF literally living in St. Lucia. So the question now becomes, right, how long or can, for example, can the country survive 4 more years of this type of, or this style of leadership?
Chris, I made a point in the parliament that the prime ministership is serious business, you know. Would you border 747 from Hiranura to JFK, and then you're willing to give the pilot a chance? We're not talking about the leadership of the Mabuya Valley Youth and Sports Council or the NYC, you know. We're talking about the prime ministership of this country. And if somebody is going to be leader of the party, and you are going to contest elections, you have to be ready from day one. Now, to be fair to him, the Prime Minister is human. He has not had the experience, and so you would expect a few missteps every now and then. But there have been too many. There have been too many. And when you come and you increase the debt by the amount that he has increased it, Chris, this is serious. It is my children and my children's children down the road who are going to pay for that.
Well, I've also heard that mutterings that there are people in terms of the chamber, unofficially, because they haven't said anything officially, that are saying that basically, but the screw-ups that have happened so far, that by this time next year we will be at the door of the IMF. Have you gotten that sense from what you're seeing?
I have heard that. And let me say here that I will not profess to be an economist. I am not one. Everything I know about economics in terms of the running of the country and the financial situation of a country is as a result of the experience I would have had inside the cabinet and me interfacing with personnel from the Ministry of Finance. So from a government standpoint, I think I have a decent enough understanding of that. But I am not an economist, and I may not be able to pronounce in greater detail than I have done here right now. But the talk has been around that this particular Prime Minister might have the unenviable tag, not long from today, of probably being the first Prime Minister from St. Lucia to take this country to the IMF.
Okay, folks, on that, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to take your calls.
The SciTop Drug-Free Club presents Drug-Free Expose 2017 under the theme Celebrating Life, Be Drug-Free on Friday, May 19th from 7 p.m. at the National Cultural Center. 8 participants will showcase their talent and creativity as they advocate for a drug-free St. Lucia. Lindsay Walcott, Esther Nicholas, Faith Ernest, Dorville Heholt, Dashka Alexander, Nemaya Monrose, Rakeem Hippolyte, Nadira Ragunanan. Tickets available at Y Dilemma executive members and participating schools. Drug-Free Expose 2017. Celebrating life, be drug-free.
Now open Massey Stores Home, the essentials for your home and much more. Consumer electronics, furniture, home decor, housewares, small and large appliances, bed and bath, and exercise equipment. Hire purchase available with the interest amount calculated on the cash price. Free delivery and installation island-wide. Plus, points with your Massey card. Just some of the many benefits at Massey Stores Home. Come see what's new and different at Massey Stores Home in the Gaberwood Mall.
All of the traditions, all of the passion and the drama, all the stars of today and the stars of tomorrow. The free kicks, the skills, the tackles, the saves and the goals of the world's most popular league are heading to one place. Every team and every game live, only with Flow, the new home of the Premier League. Flow, changing the game.
A new edition is finally here. It's both attractive and durable, with a plus band made from multiple stiffener ribs for added strength and double the rigidity. Not to mention quality coating that comes with a 10-year warranty against corrosion. Our Hercules line of fencing also includes posts and ultra-fixed brackets that are lightweight, durable, and cost-effective. Call or visit us now for your free estimate. Hercules Fencing, only at Caribbean Metals Limited. We've got you covered, guaranteed.
Really, I don't believe you. I can still see the cheddar cheese bits on your mouth. Lucky for you, everyone else loves Snyder's of Hanover pretzels. They brought every size and flavor.
Taste how great a pretzel can be with Snyder's of Hanover pretzels. A healthy, low-calorie snack for all occasions. Packaged in a variety of shapes, sizes, and extraordinary flavors. Now available at supermarkets island-wide. Agents in St. Lucia, Rennick & Company. Shopping the world for you.
The Catholic Church is adding its voice to the proposed plan submitted by Desert Star Holding Limited, as well as other issues of social justice proportions across St. Lucia. In a statement to the public, the Archbishop Robert Rivas highlighted issues which, according to him, must strike that balance between development, the environment, and people.
There has been a sense of restlessness in the country, and our clergy have been feeling it with their people. And there was a deep sense that, that we should take time and reflect on what is happening nationally, and also the many social issues today that need attention, not only in our country, but regionally and in the world, that affect us, And, of course, we pinpointed certain specific ones in our statement, but they are not the only social issues. But we are, the church is concerned, and the church sees itself as being a voice for the voiceless.
But could some of these issues on which the church has chosen to speak on seem a bit political in the public eye?
I certainly am not playing a political game. You know, I'm a member of no party. Okay, I am a facilitator, a unifier, a builder of unity in our communities, in our society, and that's my role. You know, I am not here to play a political role, nor am I priests meant to do so. And if they went to that extreme, I would correct them.
He reiterates that the church is there to be a voice to the voiceless. There have been echoes from the public in times past for the church to be more vocal on the topical issues which plague society. However, Father Rivas indicates that the church is involved, whether directly or indirectly.
You know, you can't be speaking out on everything that happens. I don't think that's my policy or the policy of the church, to enter into every dogfight, so to speak. But you know, a time comes when there is a sense that, you know, something ought to be done and something ought to be said now. And that's when the church engages in the conversation. But the other aspect of it is that you are looking at official church, you know. But remember, so many of our people who are members of the church are also part of the political spectrum. They are part of the social spectrum, and they are making their contributions out there. And, you know, I am very happy to see Catholics involved in politics, involved in the social development of our country.
He says that with the church airing its views on the various social issues, that it would allow the nation to reflect, and whatever decision that is taken would be in the best interest of the St. Lucian people. For Choice News Now, Jason Darius reporting.
I would like to make a public announcement now. It's obvious the cat is out of the bag, so there's no use holding back. Bishnu Tulsi will be running Central Castries for the St. Lucia Labour Party. Mrs. Chase will be running for Babano instead of Alvina Reynolds. They replace her to run against Ezekiel. And Father Rivas is going to be running Castries Southeast. It is obvious. It is obvious. It has all been part of the plan. And I'm very happy that last night, the Rick Wayne and, Clem Bob was silent, more reticent and endorsing and laughing. But I'm very happy that all of these people, especially Father Rivas, and also the trust, have been exposed for the political animals that they are.
I wanted to talk about Father Kevin and the Archbishop's position on the DSH and the Dolphinarium and what's going on. I mean, I know Father Kevin has talked about, or spoken out about the murders that were taking place in Beaufort at one time. If you remember, you recall that there were a number of murders on the weekend. Right. So he did talk about it. He did organize some sort of a ragtag march, candlelight, something about it. But the thing about the church is that it's not sustained. And I don't think I've ever heard the Archbishop, and I could be stand corrected, I think that I've heard the Archbishop speak very vociferous about all rapes and all murders. I mean, the grandmothers who were being raped, the young girls who were being raped in the city center, in their homes and whatnot. I don't think I've ever heard the church be very vociferous about it. I remember Father Clovis sometimes being just the lone voice.
It's war. The election is another election in the air. That's why.
Well.
Thank you very much, Gordon.
You're welcome.
So talk to me about the church.
Okay. Now, according to people that talk a long time ago before I was born, did I already?
That's a long time.
Let's hear about the souls. And the politics for the politicians. Come on, help me out, somebody. Now, I'm a strong Catholic. But if people invite me anywhere, I go. But I'm talking about no beavers, no priest from Beaufort. All I'm saying, They have to see things go positive. I watched that clip tonight, you know. People walking. My hands over people. That politics.
My issue is the Roman Catholic. And I think the Archbishop was out of place. And his statement, I think it's an insult to the Catholic faith.
You think what?
An insult to Catholics. I'm Catholic. When you have a bishop getting involved in those things, you could see there's a motive behind.
And that kind of involvement.
That kind of involvement. Because when you watch it, Rick, there are so many issues. I've heard you raise it, and people speak about it. You have priests that abuse young boys. You have women being raped daily. We had an upscourge of crime on the island. We had prayers for the nation. You never saw he took a stand and pushed this thing.
Be careful with that word.
Yeah.
That word stand.
Yeah.
Because maybe he did. Maybe he did take a stand.
Yeah, but he didn't take. But here you are. He will come and speak about Maria Island.
Yeah, and dolphins and stuff.
Now, here you watch it. The dolphin park. And I think the National Trust is being hypocritical about the whole situation. Here you are, investor came in. The Prime Minister allowed the investor to dialogue with the people at the National Trust first. But what they did, they insulted the investor.
Carl, let me say what I think was wrong with that.
Yeah.
First of all, the trust must know that it is important they are not perceived as a political group or even a pressure group and so on. That's important, or that they don't have a political side. And if the Prime Minister sends some developers to talk to you, I don't think you take that moment to do the kind of canvassing for membership and telling people, come out, and you can bring your membership. To me, it was a straight-out call to people who wanted to oppose the Prime Minister, and you were inviting him. I'm going to say straight, that's what I thought. And then to have it on television, and then there are other investors who will look at that and probably take the worst interpretation from it, as if we don't have enough trouble as it is. That's my take. I am the least of the apostles. The Trust have appeared on every show. They even appeared on my friend's show, the Labour Party chairman show.
Yeah.
A show chaired by the SLP chairman.
Yeah.
They appeared on that. They appeared on my good friend Mr. Richard Frederick's show. Yeah. These are great friends of the Prime Minister, you know, on every show. And mine is last. So maybe I saved the best for last. Maybe.
But I think the Archbishop needs to come and apologize to Catholics.
You know something, Carla?
Yeah.
I'm a Catholic too, and I talked to one or two people who are mucho Catholic here, and they think Rivas is that the name should be spelled with an ASS instead of AS. You know, the guy is not popular at all.
No, but listen, from inception, if what he did in Grosile, here you could see this man's problems. And I think we as Catholics...
What did he do in Grosile?
Remember with Father Quinlan?
Oh, yeah.
Remember the big controversy?
Yeah. That's correct. I wrote about that.
This man is problems in St. Lucia. And
I'll tell you something else.
The
Prime Minister, I was talking to the Prime Minister shortly before he left.
Yeah.
And... before all that came up, and he told me that he had supper or whatever it is with the Archbishop, you know.
Yeah.
And evidently he told him nothing about that. So I've now labeled it the Last Supper.
Yeah, the Last Supper, because it's fighting in the dark. That is another Judas. Yeah.
But you remember the time with Father Anthony and the casino and all that stuff?
Yes.
I mean, the guys were having private meetings with the Prime Minister, and then they would tell the press how the meetings went, and they would issue joint releases and so on. That's how I expect church people to behave, no?
Yes. But I think this one has its own agenda, as the others in Beaufort. And
that one in Beaufort is very suspicious, because I have letters from him, and what he says in those letters sound like almost like a conspiracy.
Giving a totally different picture, to what the trust is all about than what is being said by the trust itself. But with regards to the, I totally agree with your analysis of the statement put out by the church, Rick, because I'm saying if you, as the head of a church, you're taking your time to put out a statement on such an important issue, such, a sensitive issue. I mean, you should put out a statement based on facts. Because just last Friday, the Prime Minister's, I think she's communications responsible.
Nicole
MacDonald was on a show.
Yeah.
And
Nancy was on yesterday.
Yes, putting a lie to all what that the Vieux-Fort citizens.
As a matter of fact,
so I think what the Archbishop is really doing is just adding, fuel to the flames that are already burning.
I think it's been damn political.
Yes, and I don't blame anybody for thinking that way.
That's right.
I think that statement was ill-advised.
I mean, the wording of the statements of press release, and almost word for word,
I agree.
What you've been hearing.
I agree.
Yeah.
The same thing coming from those who are opposed to the
That's
project.
right.
First and foremost, if you're going to put out a statement, the first thing you should do is to verify facts. So that's the first thing. Secondly, we talk about social responsibility, and there are lots of things that I believe the church should be doing that we have not been doing.
Because they weren't moved.
Right.
You heard that?
Right.
They were not moved enough.
Correct.
That's the excuse.
But
you heard that.
The thing is, the church needs to protect its integrity at all times.
That's the word.
Never
that's the
seem
word.
to be taking political sides. Because once you do that, you actually divide.
Where is Rivas from? Trinidad or Venezuela?
Trinidad.
I think she ought to say a little word to Maduro down there and mediate down there a little bit, don't you think? Maduro. I mean, caller, you want to tell me that Rivas did not realize that what he was doing was not mediating, but in fact dividing people further? I mean, I didn't get a chance to read a second time what he said about the Dolphins. Just listen to that. In line with the issues raised here, we also join our voice in support of those who have expressed fundamental dissatisfaction with the proposed use. Can you believe that kind of language? That is terrible. I mean, priests, I want priests to comment on our lives. I want priests, if we are being abused, to use their pulpit and say something. But priests cannot be hypocrites. Caller, all I'm hearing, because I really have not been interested, and everybody says, why not? Because I choose not to be. They can, all the people who are on top of it, let them get the information out. I don't know much about the DSH program. I can tell you what I feel about Dolphins, but Nicole MacDonald was on the air recently. Nancy was on the air recently. The government people are putting out their stuff. They are the opposition side, the opposition programs telling you their view of it. So what I would give you is an opinion. Up to today, the Prime Minister was saying the very same thing they say he's lying is not true. This is an agreement in the making that nothing is written in stone yet. Nothing.
Rick, sometimes, Rick, you listen to the hypocrisy of some people, and you're wondering if these people are genuine in what they're doing.
Well, if you know the hypocrisy, well, you know they're not.
Because, Mr. Rivers, I'll not even say Father Rivers.
Oh, you like me. You like me.
Because, to me, he has lost his respect, Rick.
I didn't think he ever had it. He's about the most unpopular clergyman we ever had in St. Lucia.
Yes, Rick, because I am saying that I'm somebody that people look up to.
Not really.
And as though you going that low, and for what reason? What is the motive behind that? Okay, what is it you have to gain instead of looking after souls? Because that is the
I believe the problem is the guy in Vieux-Fort, and I believe that Rivas is out to lunch. I believe Rivas is out to lunch anyway, and I believe the guy in Vieux-Fort is manipulating him.
I just want to say that I always expected something from the bishop. He is not a man with any charisma, anything in it.
Nothing. And I notice his belly is getting bigger and bigger too.
Yeah, and I strongly believe that they should deport this man.
The what?
For interfering in the running of the skits.
Yeah.
Deport him, send him back to Trinidad.
Yeah.
Listen to that, Rick. Listen to that.
Yeah.
Right? The only job that the Forstons have that they are well employed in is
watching
when
the sun
rise and when it's set. Now, Mr. Shastney, who is the Prime Minister, is trying to change that. You understand? He's trying to change that.
I've heard trust members say the extinction of wildlife on Maria Island will be disastrous. What was the disastrous effect of the extinction of the dinosaurs millions of years ago? Or does the trust, like Rivas, believe in the creation rather than evolution? St. Lucia made a change. You've got to support that change. Alan Shastney is thinking out of the box. He's not going to do miracles, but he's not going to do anything without your support. And everything we're going through right now is because nobody had the gonads to make the changes about 30, 50, 60 years. I think the man has got to be given a chance to make the change. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everything he said.
Never let it be said that on this hack show of a Labour Party or whatever, that I don't play all sides. We take our first caller. Good afternoon. This is Politically Incorrect.
Yeah, Christopher, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to your guest.
Yes.
Good afternoon, caller.
Listen, I listened up to a point. I had to put the TV on mute because...
That's not good. We must hear all sides.
Listen to me. You don't know if I have high blood pressure. Come on. Wasn't Rick Wayne an atheist? Did he ever say anything good about the church or God?
He said he's a Catholic.
Okay, today.
Yes, but yes.
Yes, today. Listen, I really don't want to get involved in that, in the degeneration, in what they're doing to the Catholic Church. I really don't want to get involved. And I never knew there was so much anti-Christ and anti-Catholic here, boy. But
it is what it is.
I just had to. I just find that. Listen, that's humorous. But what I want to speak to your guest this afternoon, and I want to really applaud his efforts as being one of the best ministers of sports we have ever had on this island. And lately, the assignment has been to come after him. Now, I know his record speaks for himself. And I just want him to speak about some of his accomplishments. I want him to just tell us in a few minutes how he met the Minister of Sports. Because before, there were no lights. I know that for sure. Playing fields were in a mess. And this young man came there and he made a difference. And the record speaks. And I know whatever he has to take to defend his character, he will do it. But this is the UWP modus operandi. When they cannot come after you as a professional, they attack your character. And those who are doing it, trust me, their skeletons are not even in their closet. It is out there for everybody to see, but we do not operate like that. Labour Party does not operate like that, because some of these people would be making their pronouncements behind prison bars. But I just wonder, the ex-minister to just tell us, and he has to do that, just tell us what he has accomplished in the ministry as one of the best ministers of sports we have ever had in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller. Very kind words. I'm very grateful. But one thing I can assure you is that, notwithstanding the fact that there's an obvious attempt on my character, the one thing you will not see happen is me taking my politics to that level where they want to play. I came into politics. I wanted to be a breath of fresh air to the politics of this country. I go about my work as objectively as I can. I respect people on both sides of the political divide. The one thing I will spend no effort in doing is to defend my character. This means a lot to me. But obviously, we don't have all the time on this show for me to delve into the accomplishments. But I will attempt to do that when next we meet in Parliament for the budget debate.
Good afternoon. This is Politically Incorrect.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Imran Khan.
There you go. Thank you.
Yes, and good afternoon to the Honorable Shawn Edwards.
Also a cricketer, but not on my level.
Good afternoon. Yes, and for the record, Imran Khan, fame to glory, was being the first Pakistani to win the World Cup as a captain and his second fame was
in politics.
In politics, the cancer hospital after his mom died.
Much like our former Minister of Sports, Winward's Batman. There you go.
Yeah, but
yeah,
moving
go ahead,
forward, Honorable Shawn Edwards, you've been a young man that I have admired from your days of managing the St. Lucia under-19 team. It's unfortunate politics is a very unnoble profession, but you learn it the hard way. But I need to let you know that you stand head and shoulders above all who has presided as a Minister of Sports, except the late John Odlam. Your record speaks for itself. Just take a drive to Larry Shoes, and you would see what I'm talking about. Moving on, Christopher, it is interesting, and we are living in interesting times as well. Earlier on, you played that clip with the Minister of Security. And just last night, on another television station, a report from one of the newspapers in one of the Caribbean countries stating that there were
basically you're talking about bribery charges and all of those things that have been revamped. It was in Carib Vision News, I think it was.
You're right.
Right.
Yes. And then they are saying that there was no dialogue with the current Prime Minister, and with all the insinuations that is going on, it begs me. Another point again, Christopher.
Yeah, quickly.
The Ernst and Young preparing the budget. The Prime Minister said it was just 1%. 1% out of that budget.
1% of 1.5 billion.
Yeah, you understand. And sadly and finally, I am not a confused young man, but I got so confused in the recent weeks that the truth now seems to be being to dust out in term for fake news. And I tell you, what goes around comes around. And the Catholic Church, along with the St. Lucian Christian Council, they have swallowed and goggled so many injustices that have done to the country. But at least I'm happy now that the Catholic come. But the honest now, I am calling on the other pseudo organizations to come out and speak, because I believe in my heart of hearts what has happened to this country is a disaster.
Thank you, caller. Thank you, caller. What are your thoughts with regard to the obvious, the guns have now been trained on Father Rivas?
Well, I must say I was surprised to hear some of the pronouncements uttered by the talk show host.
And the callers.
And some of the callers. I not heard it before, but obviously I was kind of shocked. It's not often that you hear anybody launching such an assault on the church. In our society, notwithstanding what you might think about the church or the Christian community, some of the remarks that were expressed are reserved for your thoughts, and it's one of the things that you say openly. But they've managed the courage to come out, and they've been lethal in terms of the assault that has been
I wanted to point out a couple of things quickly. One, Rick Wayne said, because he does not know DSH, he has chosen not to read about it, but he says that the Prime Minister keeps saying nothing is etched in stone. I just want to go to screen here. This is the framework agreement. If nothing is etched in stone, then I guess this is all crap. These signatures and witnesses and so on is all crap. I also want to put up something else just for Rick Wayne himself, because the charges and I understand it, that the church has never come out. So for them to come out now, it must be political. I just want to ask him if when the church came out on July 16, 2011, which I also have on screen, and this was Kenny Anthony going back and forth with Father Clovis, right? And the church coming out then, if that church was being political then, or were they just being opportunistic? Because I don't get it. I have heard Father Clovis say that he's disappointed with the government because of what we are doing. But you have been disappointed in the government from May 23rd, 1997. Now consider a word dissent, defined in most dictionaries as thus, to differ in opinion or feeling or to disagree. All of this is in this story, in the Star of July 16, 2011. So I don't understand. I guess the church was not being political when it was attacking Kenny Anthony or when you were attacking Kenny Anthony, not the church. The church had its disagreements with the government, but they were not being political then, but they are being political now. Okay, I understand that. Let's see if we can take one more caller. If not, yeah. Good afternoon, this is Politically Incorrect.
Hi, good afternoon, Christopher.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Honorable Shawn Edward.
Good afternoon, caller.
Okay, it's always a pleasure to hear you speak, and you're very articulate.
Thank you.
In the House, I think I have to put Dr. Anthony first, but you were really, really good in the House.
Thank you very much.
I have maybe 1 or 2 points, quickly. I listen to, and I don't listen to Rick Wayne. I don't buy his newspaper. I have stopped buying his newspaper for a long time because Rick Wayne is an idiot. He's a hypocrite. And you have somebody who a few of us in the past have looked up to because he was very firm with some of what he said. But for Rick Wayne to come out and call the Archbishop the highest guy in the Catholic, in St. Lucia right now, and, call him an ass. This, for me, a guy who Rick Wayne goes to schools and he speaks to the young boys and the children, and for him to come out there, those same churches are associated with the schools. For him to come out there and call Rivers an ass, and you have persons like Guy Joseph, chairman, calling today. Did he stand up against what Guy Joseph has done, or a minister in the cabinet, Ubaldas? Did he stand up against that? I mean, today we'll listen to some of those persons and they're like the king and queens because their government is in power. And they see nothing wrong with what's happening. But I know the Catholic Church. I'm not a Catholic. I was not brought up in the Catholic, but I know there are persons who will stand up with the Archbishop. And I don't think they can touch him. They cannot. Somebody said they should deport him. They can't do that. Unless the Pope wants to do that, but in St. Lucia, people are actually watching what is happening in St. Lucia. I am really on another point. We have I just wanted to touch on that point. In the House, Guy Joseph came up with something about the ministers, and basically we couldn't get live feed. I'm not sure what happened, Christopher, earlier on, so I'm not sure if Honorable Shawn touched on that.
Yes, he touched on it very, very early.
We couldn't get the live feed.
And I guess the rest you're going to drop in the House.
Yeah. If you said he has touched on it, I'll leave that alone.
Yeah, no,
and I will listen to the rebroadcast.
Yeah, thank you, caller.
Thanks, bye.
I wanted to point out to Rick Wayne, and this is the best irony. He says that the press release that came from Father Rivas and the church seemed to be quoting from the documents and quoting the talking points that have been raised by the Vieux-Fort concerned citizens. Yet he openly professes and extols as a virtue that he has not read the document. Isn't that fantastic? Well, I mean, I know we run out of time, but like I said, I look forward to seeing you in the House. And like you said, we have been hearing a lot about protest action and so on. So can you just remind people about what the plan is?
Yes, absolutely, Chris. On the 17th of May from 3 o'clock, we will be having a protest march. People are asked to assemble near the VG playing field, or the sub playing field if you prefer, from 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And as I said at the beginning of the show, the protest march is not an attempt to throw down the government. This is not an opportunity for persons to come and engage in anything violent. It's a peaceful protest which is intended to send a very strong, clear and decisive message to the government that some of the programs and projects that they plan to roll out are not in the best interest of the country, and that they need to reconsider and they need to sit down and consider the opinions of persons who do not see things from the standpoint from which they see those projects.
On that note, I'll leave you with the moment of the day.